Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today on Plant Your Seed, joining us from upstate New York, we have Todd Friedman. Todd is the founder of Arthur's Acres Animal Sanctuary. Welcome, Todd.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here on Plant Your Seed. It's such a pleasure having you on the show.
Oh, thank you.
Can you tell us how you started Arthur's Acres?
Well, basically, I was working at another sanctuary, and I was volunteering there for 2 years. I worked there for 2 years, and I just in my head thought, oh, it'd be great to do my own sanctuary and focus on pigs, because pigs are really near and dear to my heart, and I love pigs. And so I really wanted to focus on pigs and special needs pigs, and to be able to care for them at a different level, take in the pigs that other sanctuaries can't take in because of just any kind of, just manpower, knowledge, any different reasons at all, So focus on the pigs that people couldn't take, the special needs pigs, the hard to deal with, the behavior issues and stuff like that, and try to work through it because of my passion for pigs. And so I kind of just was looking on like Zillow and other real estate websites at night after work, and I just came across this property, and I looked at a couple that were real not great situations, and I looked at this one, and when I came down, it really was a bad situation because it was just finished up being a slaughterhouse, basically a backyard butcher kind of slaughterhouse situation. And when I came into the property, I saw a rooster, I saw peacocks, I saw some bunnies, and supposedly there was no one on the property. The property was, the people moved already. And when the real estate agent finally showed up, I'm like, there's animals still here. He's like, oh, some may have been left behind. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I think there's like a pig or something. I'm like, what? And so I walked away. He's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to find the animals. And so I walked into this small, dark, really, really hot hallway. And there I saw Arthur, and I knew both our life was changed forever. And so I grabbed Arthur, and I named him Arthur after my grandfather. And I told the real estate agent, I'm like, I'm taking this pig. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not leaving this property without this pig. His water was black. His food had maggots on it. There was no bedding for him to sleep on. And it was like 100 degrees in the stall because it was like the heat of summer.
Right.
And he was like surprised and really confused. And I said, he's like, are you serious? I'm like, serious? It's a heart attack, man. I'm not leaving this property without this pig. So as most people know that are in animal rights or in sanctuary world, stealing an animal is a federal offense.
Right.
So I had to get the former owner to surrender him to me, and he did. And I took him right to my friend. I took him right to Cornell. He was riddled with parasites, and got him neutered and brought him right to Skylands, Mike Sturris Skylands in New Jersey, and Uncle Mike babysat him for a couple of months.
Nice. When you think back on that day, when you saw Arthur, what stands out to you?
I mean, honestly, it was like, I think just that I knew him forever. Like, this was meant to be. This was kismet. This was my journey has come to fruition, and this is what needs to happen. And it was just, and all those, like, I just, there was an anxious calm that came over me that, like, okay, it's going to be okay. This is what needs to be done, and let's do it. And those are situations that I thrive in, where it's like, okay, when you go on a rescue and there's animals that need taken care of, you can't freeze, you can't stress out. You just have to just, do what you is in your heart, and what you've been thinking of doing your whole life. And this is what you do. You step up, you get it done. And that's what I did. I was like, this is what's going to happen. I'm taking the pig. I'm going to, keep you safe for the rest of your life, and we'll figure it out from there.
Now, what is it about pigs that you enjoy so much?
Man, if I had $1 for every time someone asked me that question, I wouldn't need a fundraise for the sanctuary. I don't know, what makes people like vanilla ice cream, vegan vanilla ice cream. I don't know, I look at them and my heart just, and I love all animals. I love cows. I love goats. I love chickens, anything you can think of. I'm such an animal lover. But when I look at a pig, my heart skips a beat. Any pig, it's just, it just makes my day. My heart gets warm and I just absolutely just can't stop. I'm just completely drawn to them. I don't know what it is. There was nothing, I was working at the other sanctuary. They had a rescue of piglets. And at the time, I was volunteering and my dog, unfortunately, was dying of brain cancer. And, I stopped going for a while and then I started going back because I just needed to clear my brain. And I'd go in early to my volunteer shift and just sit with those pigs. And, they were really healing to my heart and soul, of these piglets that were rescued from a very bad situation. And so I think, that's probably one part of it. But even before that, I was just incredibly drawn to them. I mean, they're mostly gentle giants, and they're so abused by people, and just the whole bacon thing. The whole bacon thing is the most ridiculous thing in the world because people don't realize how much suffering goes into this, whatever you call it, this treat, this specialty. I mean, everybody's, there's bacon TV shows, there's bacon chocolate, there's bacon everything. And I think people just think it comes from the restaurant, it comes from the kitchen, and it stops there. There's no suffering, slaughter, horrific, abuse involved. It's just, it's just bacon. Because I'll get that comments. I get trolls on my social media sites all the time. Like, what about bacon? It's like, okay, what about suffering? Let me show you some videos, and you let me see your response to that. And people don't want to see those videos.
No,
I don't want to see those videos. I don't need to see those videos. I'm vegan. I don't need to see videos. So I think people just are incredibly blocked off to where it actually comes from. And if they saw it, I don't know if it would change them, but it would trigger something in their head, So I think it's just the whole, ball of wax of why I love them so much. One, that they're so abused. Two, that they're so forgiving. Three, they're so freaking smart. And to me, they're like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen,
Mm-hmm.
That's Charlie. Sorry. Yeah. So Charlie's giving his 2 cents. He's like, "What about roosters?" So I just love them. I mean, they're so near and dear to my heart. And we're just right now we're focusing on forwarding the treatment, the medical treatment, the medical knowledge of them. We're doing a lot of research as far as hopefully extending their lives and extending their quality of lives because they're born to die. Pigs are born to die. There was no breeding involved in having them last, 15 to 20 years. They were born to die in 6 months. So, and potbellies just became an epidemic of people thinking they're cute and they get dumped and they get fed completely improperly and they suffer because of it. So we're doing a lot of research with other sanctuaries and trying to forward the treatment, the health, and the longevity and the happy longevity of them.
How do you think you change people's perception?
I think it's through, showing them as individuals, showing them as individuals. That's my big thing. When I do social media, I spend a lot of time on social media because of my response and because from people saying that they've changed their way of eating, they changed their perception of animals. So by showing each and every one of my animals as an individual, it's not just a field full of, 100 pigs and, no one has a personality. They're just livestock. They're just numbers. So showing them not as a number, showing them as individuals, individual personalities. And I show that on my social media pages because people are so surprised that they have such different personalities. Each and every pig in here, I can identify just by their personalities and what they do and how they get around and, how they interact with others, how they interact with me. Their personalities are completely different. And when you show someone that a pig that in their head is a number just manufactured to make them bacon, to show them that they're loving and they're caring and they feel happy, they feel sad, they get depressed, they feel pain, they feel anger, they have the same feelings as we do. it really sparks something in people. And it's working because on a daily basis, I get messages that people have stopped eating meat because of the animals at Arthur's Acres.
Now, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it's the best thing in the world. I mean, there's nothing better. You know, I always tell people my dream is to be unemployed. My dream is to be not needed. My dream is to the world to go vegan, let the animals at Arthur's Acres, you know, die of, you know, old age. And then, you know, I throw the keys in the door and disappear. You know, I don't want to be needed.
Right.
I really don't. This is not an ego trip. To me, this is nothing. I love what I do, and I love taking care of these animals. And there's nothing I'd rather be doing but unemployed and not be needed. That would be the only thing I'd rather be doing in my life, is to completely not be needed because people are vegan. They're no longer torturing animals. They're no longer eating animals, and I'm not needed. I think that's most people's that have sanctuaries dream, is to be unemployed. Not that I'm a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. I don't take a salary, so. Yeah, unemployed volunteer. But yeah, I think that's any legitimate sanctuary's desire, is to not be needed and not exist.
How did you start learning to actually run an animal sanctuary?
I mean, I've owned my own business since I was like 17 years old. So a sanctuary is a business. You have to bring in more money than you put out. I mean, that's basic, you know, sanctuary or business 101. If you bring in more money than you put out, you survive another day. If you put out more money than you bring in, unfortunately, you know, people don't like to equate a sanctuary as a business, but it's 100% a business. And it's not dismissing that we're dealing with live and living beings, but you can't run a sanctuary at a deficit. So, you know, so it's running a business. You have to run it just like you have to do marketing. You have to, you know, do fundraising, which fundraising is like bringing money, and whether it's selling clothing or doing fundraisers or having events, or any creative way that you can raise money for these animals. When we have really, really, really big bills. I mean, 2 months ago, our vet bill was almost $30,000.
Wow.
You know, so, and people just don't understand that, you know, it's a business, and that's what it is. You know, we're dealing with living, breathing individuals, but unfortunately we have to bring in more money than we put out, or we can't take care of the animals. And that's what we're here for.
Now, can you tell us some of what's involved in running a sanctuary? I mean, like, what do you go through on a daily basis?
My day starts at like 6:37. I get out of bed about 6:30, depending on when Princess screams. She's a pig that lives in the house to go tinkles outside. So they're all house trained. So we have 3 pigs that live in the house. And so she'll scream to go outside to pee. So I get up, and then I start preparing their meals and their medications at 7. And then after they're fed, which is, you know, fed and because I have a couple special needs animals that get fed by hand, you know, that's like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then one animal that's mobility that has to be brought in and out on a stretcher, then bring him in out. So, you know, the days go really, really fast, because once you're done feeding and medications, you know, then you do animal care. So just making sure everybody has their medications. You have to do, you know, wound cleaning and healing. And then, you know, it's cleaning or construction. So we do all of our, you know, building of our fences and, you know, all of the kind of land management where, you know, I cut the grass. Like we're actually reseeding a pasture today. So, you know, putting up fences to block the pigs out of the pasture we're reseeding. So it's a lot of maintenance, a lot of animal care. It's literally everything. And then because I go live almost every day, we go live 5 or 6 days a week on social media for an hour, just to basically a tour and to bring people into what my daily life is. We have that. And then there's social media, there's emailing, because I do all the emailing and the marketing. So responding to people for tour requests, and I do tours every day personally. So it's a packed-filled day. So it starts about 6:30 and ends about 9 in the summer at night, 7 days a week.
Now, you mentioned that you've always been a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide to change everything in your life to run a sanctuary?
Well, my last business, and I've done a lot of businesses, but my last business was a small a small business marketing and printing retail location. And I did that for 10 years. And, I got the last few years of it, it was just getting really disheartened with humanity. And, we do printing, whether it was invitations and booklets and, anything people need, business cards. And, people were just less and less grateful, more demanding, and less grateful. And I just found myself, and I had 2 dogs, and found myself just retreating to my, home at night with my dogs and just getting away from humanity and just getting really upset with what was going on. I had people wanting, oh, I forgot to order my wedding invitations. They need to go out tomorrow. It's like, okay, I'll stay up all night, print your wedding invitations, and have them ready for tomorrow. The people wouldn't show up the next day. They'd take a couple of days to show up, and they want like a discount. They're like, could you do any better on the price? I'm like, wait, what? No one else would do this job. No one else would do this job. You came to me in an emergency, and you said they had to go out the next day. You never showed up, and then now you want a discount? And it just got more and more situations like that where people were just incredibly ungrateful. And, I started volunteering at a sanctuary, and there was no turning back. I decided that was what I wanted to do in my life. And I immediately put my business up for sale. I didn't have a job. I didn't have everything. I was going to move up to upstate New York and figure my life out with animals. And so I just, threw caution to the wind, and everybody thought I was crazy. And, it took a year to sell my business, and I sold my business, and I haven't looked back. And just every day is, better than the next in life, and I'm doing what I was born to do. And a lot of people in life don't find the passion. And this is my passion. This is what I've been born to do. And this is what I'm supposed to do in my life. So, I'm so happy about it, but I don't look back and like, oh, I wish I was in business again. I mean, I am in business, but I wish I was like doing something like that with a really ungrateful set of people that really just got worse and worse every day.
Now, you said that people thought you were crazy. Who specifically thought you were crazy? All your friends?
I had friends that knew me, that knew there was always going to end up something like that. And, people, the people that need to plan the planners were like, what? I'm like, and, I got some savings, and, and they're like, what? Like, so it was the planners that, the dreamers were like, I get messages again on a daily basis saying, I wish I did what you do. I wish I can do what you do. I wish. It's like, stop wishing. Life's short, and you got to just follow your passion. And unfortunately I could have failed and, and had to start another business or had gone to work somewhere or do something like that. But, I think Wayne Gretzky has one of the greatest quotes ever on just trying to do something, and it's, you miss every shot you don't take.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, this is not like a money-making thing. Like I said, I don't take a salary. I don't take any money from the sanctuary. I live off my savings. But unless I tried, I would never know. And that's like, it's so funny. It always goes back to the Wayne Gretzky quote. And it's like, wow, you're right. And that can be adaptable to anything going on in your life. If you don't try, you're never going to succeed. And then you regret the rest of your life not trying.
It's true. Now, when and why did you transition to a plant-based diet?
It was about 8. Well, I went vegetarian first. It was a girlfriend at the time, was vegetarian, but really just vegetarian, I think, we never really discussed it. And so we were long distance for a while. So I'd visit her on the weekends, and I called myself, and I was never in my whole life was a huge meat eater. It wasn't like this driving force. I was never like, give me a steak, give me a hamburger. It was like, I don't know. I ate turkey sometimes. I ate chicken sometimes. I never really ate like red meat or stuff like that. And that was just because I just didn't have a great taste for it,
Mm-hmm.
So it was no big loss. And then so I always laughed that I was a vegetarian on weekends. I love pizza, so I ate pizza every day. I loved it. So then after, then she moved closer and we were together more, and I went vegetarian, and it was great. And it was always because of my dogs, and I couldn't see eating my dogs and being drawn to that. And then visiting the sanctuary, and other sanctuaries, I would be like, what am I doing, man? And then I just it was like September 1st, like I guess like 5 years ago. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go vegan. I'm gonna go vegan for 30 days and see if I like it. And like 5 minutes into it, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be eating. This is who I am. I've been a vegan my whole life. I just didn't know it. This is what I was supposed to do. And I immediately felt like this weight that was lifted off your soul that you didn't know that you had because of all the dead animals that were, that the harm was coming to them because you chose to eat milk or dairy, or meat or dairy or eggs, any of that.
What positive changes have you seen physically and mentally since you've been vegan?
Because it's physically, yes, my body feels like a little better, but more it's mentally. And mentally, like I said, people don't know when they're eating meat that there's this weight on your soul. You're carrying a lot of grief from suffering animals as you eat them. There's no such thing as humane slaughter. There's no such thing as free range. There's no such thing as these marketing words, like farm to table. It's such crap,
Mm-hmm.
as far as meat is concerned. It's like, oh, so they died. So they're in a pasture, for the 6 months before they die, but then they get, a bolt gun to the head or their throat cut. So you carry all that grief on your soul. And for me, it wasn't as much of a physical thing. It was a mental and a spiritual thing where nothing has to die for my existence. So I think that was the biggest change I saw, where I don't have this grief hovering over me or this dark cloud of all these thousands and millions of animals that die every, day, not only because of what I was doing, but because of people around me were doing.
What did you struggle with? You mentioned you loved pizza. Did you struggle with that when you first became vegan, or not at all?
I have to be honest, like, you say struggle and, people say what's a struggle and everything. Well, there wasn't a struggle because my compassion far outweighed my want for anything. But that was something when I went vegetarian for 4 years before I went vegan, that I ate every day. I literally would be at work and I'd run out for a piece of pizza and come back and be done. And that was my thing. And so that was like my only, thing that I liked or loved, and I really wanted to continue. But there's so many plant-based vegan options out there for cheese. It's not a big loss, but it was never my compassion for the animals and the stopping the suffering far outweighed my taste buds for anything.
Now, what's one thing that's happening at Arthur's Acres that's exciting for you right now?
Our new barn probably opening up. We had a fire last year in November, a year and I guess a half ago in November, and it burned our main pig barn. And so we've been working really hard to rebuilding, and we're getting close. For the next few months, we'll open up that barn, and it will be really amazing because we'll have a medical suite in there that we will be able to, our regular medical procedures. But we had a couple of emergency surgeries this year that were done on site, that were done in a regular stall, where this year we'll be able to do it in a climate control clean room. And that's really important to us. So the new barn going up and is probably one of the coolest things, and having a medical room and having, that kind of facility where in emergencies, it's awesome.
Now let's talk Arthur for a second, shall we?
Okay, sure. Love some.
I'm sure it's probably one of your favorite subjects. You met him when he was 3.5 months old.
Yes, sir.
What was it that you saw in Arthur?
I saw everything. I mean, I looked into his eyes, and I saw everything. I saw the future. I saw his. He was just this innocent being sleeping next to the kill room at a backyard slaughterhouse, and was totally devastated by that room. Didn't want to go through that room because all his relatives died in that room. And I literally saw everything. I looked in his eyes, and my life completely changed. Why I didn't think about anything, I thought about everything. My mind went blank, but all I thought about is like, we're getting you to safety, and I'm going to take care of you. You are going to be with me for the rest of your life. And both our lives have changed forever at this moment. I knew I would never be without him. No matter what happened in my life, whether Arthur's Acres didn't open or not, there was going to be somewhere where he was going to be with me for the rest of my life, or his life, both our lives.
That's just great.
I mean, we have close to 60 animals here. We have saved hundreds through networking connections, just doing transport, working on different rescues. So all because of him. So he's the real hero. If I didn't find him, the property was a mess. It was a slaughterhouse. There was everything was falling down. It was a swamp. It was terrible. We've done so much work to the property where if I didn't find him, I would have moved on to something else. I was not going to buy this property if it wasn't for him.
Now, when you look back at that, you say you wouldn't have bought the property if it wasn't for him.
Most likely, it was disheveled. It was bad.
That day, you're walking around and you're like, this property really needs a lot of work. I'm not really interested. Then you see Arthur and it just flips your whole way of thinking. I mean, you're walking around there and you're seeing I don't know, the remains of animals, decomposing birds, some cutting tools, stuff like that, blood-stained walls. And now all of a sudden you see Arthur and it flips.
Well, because my big thing was okay, so we negotiated for the property for a while. The negotiations went away. Arthur was at Mike Stirr's at Skylands. And, it just really got stale, the negotiations. And so I kind of was okay, this probably isn't going to happen. And we'll figure something out with Arthur where we're going to move. And so, so my dad had a quadruple bypass. He was in the emergency surgery, and I was driving home and I get a text that I got the property. And, the big thing is turning a place that was in such a horror show into such a positive place and it really is, it's a place of healing. And so to really turn that energy 180 degrees became a really big focus where, okay, and Mike was a big help. I'm like, Mike, I could do the animal care. I could do the transport. I can drive a tractor. I can do that. But man, I can fix stuff, but I'm not great. And he's like, Todd, you cut a hole in the barn. It's not the right hole. You fix the hole. End of story. And, and then he called me and I tell you how to fix it. And he's done that a couple of times. I had a problem with my truck when I was transporting animals, and he literally, from the sound and the vague description I get him, he's like, it's this, this, and this, take it to mechanic. And I did. And the guy fixed it in 5 minutes. And it was literally exactly from the vaguest freaking explanation you'd ever explain. Mike knew exactly what it was. And the mechanic knew exactly, he explained it and it was right there. So Mike was like, you just fix it, man. It's, just fix it. It's not brain surgery. Just, if you break something, you fix it, and I'll teach you how. That's
just great. That's great. Mike Stirr is a great guy.
Yeah, friends like him, support from other people, and amazing volunteers. We have a gentleman, Hans, that comes up and helps us with everything, and he's amazing. His wife, Karen, they're just great people. We have a tremendous amount of wonderful volunteers. And so it's awesome. So without them, it would have been a really hard situation, but this place it's not even familiar from what it started out.
Yeah. I love the way you've taken that kind of negative place and changed it into a place of positivity and compassion.
No, it's definitely, the biggest thing is compassion. And I always tell people, if you're like our message, tell your friends about, our social media. If you like our message of compassion, your friends may like it too.
Now, what is one habit or hack that keeps you on track with your plant-based diet as well as Arthur's Acres?
I don't think there's just one. There's no keeping on track. This is who I am. This is what I've always meant to be, as far as vegan and no animal products in my life. There's nothing in my life that doesn't remind me that I'm this way. And anybody who asks is going to hear it. I have no problem spreading that message to anybody who will listen for even a second, and people probably want me to shut up at some points,
Hey, you got to tell them the truth, right?
Always. I have no problem telling the truth.
Finally, can you give me one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
Lost and blessed. I was definitely lost in my life, and I think it was caused by probably eating animal products and not really understanding where my food came from. And then blessed because I've been blessed to have nothing suffer from my existence.
Yeah, that's great. I just really feel sometimes that there's a lot of people who don't understand where their food comes from.
No, and I was talking to a friend this morning. I'm like, so many people just think that, you know, their food comes from the kitchen, and it stops there, and it's a mental block, and that's a mental block so they can just not feel for the animals that are suffering for their existence. So I think it's just so many people are like, I mean, I don't think mentally they don't mentally think, oh, it's just coming from the grocery store, but I think that's where they're compelled to just think, okay, this is the way I'm going to deal with eating meat. Because I think there's very little people that you could sit down with and show them a video of a pig being slaughtered and suffering to then enjoy, you know, a bacon sandwich. You know what I mean? So they they just separate in their head, and that's it. It comes from the grocery store. There's no suffering. It's just like when I buy, when I buy I don't know, an inanimate anything.
Chocolate bar.
You know, yeah, like, chocolate bar is suffering too, but like, it's just like when I buy, I don't know. I don't want to say paper towels because trees die, but like, trying to think of an example,
Yeah. Now, do you think it's willful ignorance, or is it just the way people deal with it?
No, it's willful ignorance. It's willful ignorance, because they're having social media right now. And if you haven't seen something on Facebook, something somewhere where you see the suffering of animals, and these people get, and I keep bringing up Mike Sturr, but when Mike Sturr goes on these big rescues that, the police are involved, and he's taking a cow off a bridge and saving their life, and all these non-vegans get up in arms, and they're so pissed that this is happening. They're like, are you freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding? You're upset over this cow. We're going to raise thousands of dollars, which is amazing. They pay for their animal care and for their hospital bills and the care for the rest of their lives. But it's the most frustrating things. I love that sanctuaries, when these big rescues, bring attention to this. But I also get really pissed off because now you're pissed. Now you're upset. You're a hypocrite. This is what took you to be pissed, as you go and say, oh, that Mike or this sanctuary, that sanctuary, they're doing amazing work. I can't believe they rescued that pig, that cow, that chicken from that bad situation. Oh, I'll have 2 double cheeseburgers, give me fries, and give me a side of bacon. Like, right. Oh, and in the same conversation, be ordering or eating a hamburger or doing that. I'm like, what the frick is wrong with you? You want to shake them, and you want to be like, what's going to take for you to stop? That upset you? Like I talked to someone yesterday. I'm like, if anything we were doing right now, we changed the word from cow, pig, to chicken, to sheep, to lamb, to horse. If you just put the word dog in there, the world would stop and be up in arms.
Right.
But because it's a farm animal, it doesn't matter. My head's going to explode, if I hear it one more freaking time. Like, oh my God, that was so terrible. That was a beautiful rescue. Oh, we're going to Burger King. We're going to grab a burger. You want, like, what? What? It's the craziest thing. The biggest, it's so hypocritical, and it's frustrating as hell. And that's my mission, is just to just keep going. Educate. And you're going to have to listen to me sooner or later.
That's true. You just keep putting out the facts, right?
Yep. You got to do what you got to do.
Hey, it's such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're crazy busy, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Now, what's the best way for people to find you on Instagram, the web, social media in general?
Well, social media is Arthur's Acres. On Instagram, it's Arthur's Acres. Facebook, Arthur's Acres as well. We are Arthur's Acres Animal Sanctuary.org on the internet. And you can find all our information there. We do tours every day. We have great fundraisers. We have volunteer days. We have events and everything. We'd love people to support us. We have Patreon accounts that you can donate $1 a month for as little as $1 a month to get the inside information. You can sponsor animals here. You can take a tour. We educate you. There's so many different ways to get in touch with us, but great ways to support us and support the animals. And we appreciate everything people do for us.
That's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it as well.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.